Oh my God. We are live. Hey, thank you everyone for coming to Koelsch Innovation Lab. We're very excited to have you today. This is Koelsch Innovation Lab, and today we're featuring Ron Nevelow, and I cannot wait to introduce him to you. But hold on a second. But first,
well, then don't.
But first, we're waiting for a few more people to get here. So I'll play the intro and then we'll be right back. And I got to tell you, this is a really important show because there's a lot of people in this country that need brain health, but we haven't figured out how to do it. Ron's figured out how to actually deliver brain health. And so we've got to talk today. So my name is Benjamin. I'm your host. I'm with Koelsch Innovation Lab, where we look at some of the most innovative things happening for elders around the world. And they're usually things that we're piloting or researching here at Koelsch Innovation Lab and bringing them to you so you can learn what's going on, right? And stay up to date. So today we have Ron Nevelow. He's a licensed clinical social worker. He lives in Dallas, Texas, but he gets around a lot. He's been 23 years in psychotherapy, working with adults, teens, kids in school, and seniors. He's a certified dementia practitioner, and he is co-founder of Inspire Senior Care. So I got to ask you, Ron, as a licensed clinical social worker, you could do a lot of things. Why did you choose brain health specifically as one of your key areas of focus?
Because we found a niche that wasn't being served. So what we found was, if you look at senior living communities, a lot of them don't have on-site mental health anyway. And I can talk more about that later. But what they're really not doing is one-on-one brain fitness work. It's very rare. Like here I am in Texas. We're one of only 2 companies that do this work at all. And even around the country, it's just not very prevalent at all. There are a lot of states that don't have anything like this at all. So it was an unmet need for a population that deserves the help, because if you've been around people or know people with dementia, or even earlier stages when it's not dementia, when it's just what we call a mild cognitive impairment, it's really sad and it's scary for them and it's scary for the loved ones. So we are attempting to help with that. And so that's part of why I got into that.
There's a lot of research out there around brain health. Can you give us and everyone who's watching just a little sense of what we know we can actually do to slow the progression of dementia?
Absolutely. So the first thing I'm going to warn everyone that's watching this is there's a lot of information out there on the internet and in articles across that's just not accurate. It's not been proven. Or you get people that are claiming to have proven it. But if you know anything about research, you need to find who's funding the research. For instance, if the dairy industry is touting research about the benefits of drinking whole milk, but they're funding the research, of course the research is going to show that it's benefiting. So you got to follow the money trail. So what I did was I avoided money trails. I went with people that don't have a vested interest in it, that were doing research globally. And what I came up with is I found 5 things that the research industry has established can work with and is effective at preventing dementia and or slowing it down. Then I took that information to verify it. I took a course with a world-renowned brain research institute out of a university in, of all places, Australia. And I took a course with them on preventing dementia. And guess how many they had? Same 5 things. Then if you know who Dr. Sanjay Gupta is, which most of us do, he's a medical expert for CNN and kind of the go-to when you're doing something on the airwaves and want a medical expert. He's also an author. In his latest book, he took time out to research what globally we have decided is effective at strengthening the brain and preventing dementia. And guess what? Same 5 things. So I'm feeling very confident when I tell you there are 5 things that global research is doing. So let me tell you what the 5 things are real quick. Number 1, in no particular order, other than this one. If researchers had to pick only one, they would pick exercise, particularly aerobic exercise. Aerobic exercise is by far the best. Experts recommend about 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. For people who aren't exercising, don't start at 30. You need to work up to it. But aerobic exercise is any type of exercise where you are keeping your heart at an increased rate. So things like basketball, tennis, where it's start, stop, that is not aerobic. What aerobic is stuff like walking, swimming laps in a pool back and forth, or even for people that can't walk, movement, moving your arms enough to get your heart at an increased rate is an aerobic activity if you'll just keep it up. So number one on my list of things is exercise. Number two on my list is social interaction. You know, when we engage with people socially, we using a lot of different parts of our brain, a lot of different processes, particularly when we're talking to people we don't know well or know at all when we meet new people. I think that's really good. So social interaction is number two on the list. Third on my list is what they call brain foods. There are certain foods that are shown to be good for the brain, for brain health. Number one on that list probably would be fresh blueberries, but blueberries and strawberries are really good. Most people, if I ask them what's the number one brain food, they're going to say salmon. So fatty fish are good, salmon, tuna, stuff like that, though you shouldn't eat tuna more than probably once or twice a week because of mercury. And then vitamin K rich foods like broccoli, spinach, kale, really good. Fresh fruits and vegetables in general are good. The general rule for brain health is anything good for the heart is good for the brain. It's not always vice versa, but anything good for the brain, good for the heart, is also good for the brain. So fresh fruits and vegetables, really good. Recent research showing walnuts to be good for memory. Isn't that an interesting one? So walnuts is one. And then the fifth one, I really wished it was milk chocolate, but it's dark chocolate. Dark chocolate in limited amounts is being shown to be good for the brain health too. So number three on my list is brain foods. Number four, and if you ever see a list that's more than five, that's a good list. You're going to see them break out into multiple things. My number four on my list. So number four on my list is take care of your health. So on the physical side of it, it's get enough sleep, and particularly not napping. It's REM sleep, that deep sleep you get into in the middle of the night. And in fact, I tell people all the time, if you feel like you need to nap, try and limit it to like 30, 45 minutes at the most, and don't do it more than once a day. If you get that tired, then stay up as much as you can and then go to sleep at night. You'll sleep into a deeper sleep better and get that longer, deeper sleep. So it's not total sleep that's really as important as that deep, what we call REM sleep. That's important. Staying hydrated, keeping your blood pressure and cholesterol in check. That's recent research over the last 5 years or so where they showed a connection between high blood pressure and high cholesterol and brain health issues. If you're diabetic, keep that in check. If you're a smoker, stop smoking. If your weight is up, get your weight down to a good, healthy weight. In senior living communities in particular, I find a lot of them love to serve desserts, lots of desserts. And what I see is a lot of the seniors, if they're not very active and they're eating all those desserts, they're going to start putting on weight. So keeping the weight down, keeping it manageable, keeping it healthy is a really good thing. So when I see these lists that are more than five, it's because they're breaking all these little things down about your health.
Okay.
And I add to it also mental health. Mental health plays a piece in it too, particularly in the area of depression and anxiety, which are the two most common mental health issues you would find in a senior living community. And what I found is, for the most part, 1 to 4 are being handled by senior living communities. It's the fifth one that isn't being addressed as well as it could be, and that's challenging cognitive activities. Challenging cognitive activities, which could be a variety of different things. But when people ask me, what's a challenging cognitive activity? Like, how do I know? I give an illustration of, if you're listening to me lecture, this is a cognitive activity. You're processing my information, trying to remember what I'm telling you. That's all good and well. But if you want to make it a challenging cognitive activity without taking any notes, tomorrow, talk to someone, tell them what you heard from me, tell them what you learned. That's a challenging cognitive activity. So really learning new things is a challenging cognitive activity. It's a great thing, and it could be anything. There's actually research showing learning how to knit is good for the brain, or learning digital photography is good for the brain. It's not what you're learning, it's that you're learning something new. For older adults, my number one go-to is learn technology. Scares the hell out of a lot of them, and it opens up a whole new world of opportunities for you, and it's a great learning opportunity. Particularly, you can bond with your family who may already know technology and be willing and love to teach you.
Okay, I like that. So I want to dig in a little further on that. Quick hello from Catherine. Hey, Catherine, we're glad you're here today. Very happy to have you. For those of you who are watching live right now, please know that we would love to hear your questions and comments as we move forward. I do want to show you something. We're going to give away this book. It's called Brain Rules. It covers a lot of the things that Ron just talked about, and it's by this amazing researcher. His name is Dr. John Medina.
Love that
fascinating. He's a fascinating guy. So anyway, be putting in your comments, because I'm going to be choosing 2 people out of everybody who comments today to get that book. So keep your comments coming.
I'm rooting for Catherine. She's from Dallas. I know her.
And there's Catherine again. You got it, Catherine. So keep the questions coming. So first, okay, I'm going to ask you next, Ron, something, but I'm going to show a video first. So my question that I'm going to be asking you is, okay, now that we know what we need to do for brain health, and Inspire has chosen to really dig in on one of the 5 areas, how do you teach social workers to do that? So, but before I ask that question, I want to show you one of your social workers send me a video telling me a story of how they found a creative way to do brain health for seniors last Christmas. So hang on tight and let's watch Jennifer tells that story.
Hey, my name is Jennifer. I've been with Inspire since April of 2020. As we all know, 2020 was a very difficult year for just about all of us. I bet none of us could have imagined just how difficult it would be for our seniors. The holidays were pretty much non-existent in 2020 for them. Left a lot of them missing families, holiday traditions, really just kind of closed in with not a lot to do. So I asked all of my residents to search through their family recipe boxes, their cookbooks, and start looking for their favorite holiday cookie recipe. Each one of them gave me a different recipe to take a look at. I went out and bought all of the ingredients. I packed up my kitchen and I brought everything into the community, and we spent the entire day going from apartment to apartment, baking everybody's favorite family recipes that they haven't had in quite some time. Put lots of smiles on people's faces. We had a lot of fun. By the end of the day, we had so many cookies. We were able to take them and divide them up and give everybody a little bit of a taste of everything. Everybody got a box of cookies. All the residents that participated, we passed them out to the staff members. It wasn't the same as what they're used to. They still were missing families, of course, but at least for a day, they kind of forgot what it was to be isolated in their rooms during this pandemic. And they were able to remember what the holidays are really all about, and having fun and being with each other and just getting to do the things they enjoy. This is one of the many reasons that I continue to do the work I do here with Inspire, because every day gives me opportunities to do things like this with the residents and put smiles on their face. I look forward to these holidays coming up and what we can do, and maybe we'll do the same thing. Maybe we'll find something different, but either way, I look forward to it, and I hope that you've enjoyed this story and what it's like a day in the job of working with Inspire. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so when I think of brain health, I think of math problems. I think of crosswords. And here she's baking cookies with the elders and challenging them to remember things from their past and keep engaging their skills, their learned skills over and over again. And these are people living with dementia that she's working with. This is the people she's working with. Anyway, tell me what happened there. Like, why did she choose that kind of modality?
So that's long-term memory. And when you're dealing with people with dementia, our focus with them tends to be 3 things. Okay. So our brain fitness program with people with dementia, we focus on name, face recognition of family, friends, and caregivers, helping them identify and recognize the people in their lives. Because if you understand dementia, you know that dementia is a progressive illness. It's going to keep getting worse, and we don't have a cure for it yet. And so if someone lives long enough, they're going to lose everything. And it's just heartbreaking for the people that love them, because they lose the person who's still there physically, but they really lose who they are. And so we're going to help them recognize the people. That's one thing we work on. The second one we work on is word retention. So helping them hold on to words so that they can communicate with people. They'll eventually lose that too. And the third is positive long-term memory. That is a positive long-term memory activity. Absolutely. I'm not going to take credit for it at all. I never even thought of that one. I think that's brilliant. So what I tell you, Benjamin, one of the questions is like, how do these people learn these things? What are you teaching them? Oh, I don't teach them that. Well, what I do is, what I'm doing with them is I'm preparing them for how we do things, and I'm teaching them some of the tools we give them. And we give them a menu of options. But what one brain fitness program looks like for one person can be totally different for another person. There is no set program. And one of the great things about being a clinician with us is that you have the creativity, you have the freedom to be creative and think of your own things. And I've always seen people come up with things that are fabulous. And our clinicians, I think, are top notch. They're so dedicated. They're so committed, so passionate. Last thing I want to do is try and get in their way of that creativity. So we just step back and say, if you can work this part of the brain, in this example, positive long-term memory, you can come up with something that works for you that your residents will like, do it. And they're like, well, what if? I'm like, do it. And then if it works for you, let me know, and I'll tell everyone else that's working for us about it. Yeah, I think that was a brilliant move on Jennifer's part.
That's great. I love it. Let's hear from Katie real quick. Katie was excited to get started with you, and then the pandemic happened. And so this is her story of, oh my gosh, all the buildings, all the communities across America are shutting down, and I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to do brain health. So that's what she had to say.
Hi there. I have had the pleasure of working with Inspire Senior Care for the past 2 years now, and I work in a very lovely facility that has totally embraced me. I started right before the pandemic and had my schedule all set, and then the pandemic hit, and the community that I work in totally embraced me and considered me an essential worker. So I was able to go there 5 days a week and help with the community. I not only saw my residents and did the memory care program, but also made sure that some of the other residents had their needs met, and just to say hi, just to ask how they're doing, because they were just so emotionally isolated from their family and friends during that time. So the community, I know I made a difference in the community and have been told, but on the flip side, I believe that me working in that community has probably helped me as a clinician more than it has helped clients. So especially during this time when, during the pandemic, when things were just so emotionally ambiguous. So I've had the pleasure of working with wonderful people. The staff is great. I love all my clients. Even my non-clients now consider me part of the family. So it's a great, great program. And I really think that my presence at my community has really set the tone for Inspire and has really made a huge difference. And I'm honored to be working with Inspire. Thank you.
So one of the things that I think I want to take a moment to talk about is, so my first experience with Inspire was I went into one of our communities in Texas, Meadowbrook in Arlington, Texas. And I'm walking through the community, and there's this super excited older person, probably 80 years old. She's got dementia, and she's just really excited. And she's talking about this visit she's going to have with a social worker.
April.
Was it April? Okay.
April's the clinician. Yeah.
Okay. So April walks in, and she's with this elder, and this elder is just so happy to see her. And I'm going, how do you two know each other? What's going on? Like, I don't see this every day. And I come to find out that they've got this ongoing relationship where twice a week, April visits her for about an hour and they do all kinds of things together and they just have this wonderful time. And I saw some other residents with that same positive experience as they were getting ready to have their visit with April. So that was my very first experience with Inspire. And I think one of the things I like about your model is instead of a model in which maybe a bus picks up a senior, takes them downtown to go into an office, have a session, drive back, you're doing it on site. You're going right where they live, right where they spend their days. 2, you are really sending your social workers to become a part of the life of the community versus the elders leaving their home, going somewhere else and coming back. The social worker is there all day, 2 to 4 days a week. It's pretty cool. Tell us a little bit about this model you created to try to solve the issue where this brain health and this mental health offerings that we need was only available to people who were fairly wealthy and had transportation and could pay for it privately. You're making this more affordable. You're bringing it to senior living communities. Tell us a little bit about your model, how it works.
So, we saw from other companies doing stuff like this, and we learned from them what didn't work, right? So we knew that we needed to come to the community. We don't need these older adults traveling if they didn't need to, and there was no reason for it. We're coming into communities. There are a lot of people that need us. Another thing that we did that was a little different from some groups is that we would assign a clinician to a community instead of sending a bunch of different people in, because we want to make them a part of the community. Because when they're a part of the community, they become part of the family. And as a result, the residents trust them more. And some people that would be hesitant to use us all of a sudden realize that we're safe and that we're a good option. And then they start talking to their friends who like us, or they see them look forward to us and they're like, well, why aren't you working with me? Right? So really the model of coming into there and seeing them and working one-on-one. And the one-on-one is so important because the reality is senior living communities, whether it's Koelsch or anyone else, there's no way budgetarily you can give that much one-on-one time. You're covering too many people. It's just not realistic. So for us to come in and give them one-on-one time once or twice a week, and with brain fitness, it tends to be twice a week, to give that type of attention, that's really excellent. And I've told people before, even if what we did didn't work, and I see it work and people are telling me it works, and it's based in global research, so I know this stuff works. Even if it didn't, if I could get insurance to pay for someone to go visit my loved one once or twice a week and spend a little under an hour with them, quality one-on-one time, of course I would want that. Absolutely, I would want that.
That's love that. Let's hear from Dana too. Dana had a story to share about her experience as a social worker in memory care.
Hello. I had a client that I've been working with, for a while now. She was really close to her roommate, and they played rummy every afternoon together. So that would be kind of my time not to visit her because I knew she looked, so forward to that time with her roommate. Well, her roommate passed away a few months ago, and my client, wasn't playing cards anymore. And recently I came up with the thought of, why don't I have her teach me how to play rummy? Because I don't know how to play rummy. I thought, this could be something enjoyable for her while working memory and retention skills at the same time. Well, she taught me how to play rummy, and she explained all the rules perfectly and explained them in a way that I understood. She was able to recall all the rules. And we had a really good time playing. And now this is something that, I have a deck of cards in my bag, and kind of how we start our visits off, play around a rummy, and then get into our, other things that are part of our visits. But it always, kind of starts our sessions on just a positive note and with something that she enjoys.
And that's coming from a clinician in one of your Koelsch communities.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, one of the things that I'm hearing from the different stories we've heard today is brain health doesn't have to be scary. Because I wonder if sometimes people hear brain health and they think, oh my gosh, I'm going to be doing school. But even something like helping an elder teach you how to play rummy is actually triggering their brain in new ways. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Absolutely. So when I'm having someone teach me something they already know, again, positive long-term memory.
Okay.
So if they're working in communities where the population has dementia, that's going to be one of the things that they're going to work on with them. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't even say brain health, we say brain fitness. It's like physical fitness, it's a workout for the brain, but it's fun. And it has to be fun. The way we've set this thing up in our business model is people do not sign contracts with us. That way they can quit anytime they want. And from a cost perspective, traditional Medicare Part B is covering the brain fitness program, so that if they have their only out of pocket is going to be if they have an unpaid deductible that a secondary policy isn't covering, or if they have a Medicare Advantage plan. Only possible outlay is going to be if they have an unpaid deductible. That's it. So most of the people using us are spending nothing that they wouldn't spend in a year's time if they weren't using us. So it's no additional cost, and there's no contractual obligation. And for people that are fearful of someone they don't know, particularly when we're in an era where so many people are trying to scam seniors, right? We're taking the fear away, because we want everyone that could qualify to be using us. It is a service that is available out there. If not from us, from someone else, I don't care. This is a generation that deserves the very best. And they're at a time of life where they're vulnerable and they've earned the right to get quality. And so we're trying to bring them nationwide this quality service that they have access to. We just need to educate everybody that it's out there and they can get it. And we're one of the people that are providing it nationwide, soon to come to all Koelsch communities.
So on that note, this was a service that was available to pretty much just the wealthy not that long ago. What motivated you and your co-founder to dig in and create opportunities for people who could not afford to hire a social worker, a psychologist, to give them 2 hours a week of dedicated, focused time every week for years? Most people can't afford that. What motivated you guys to go this direction where you're making it mainstream, where the average American can afford it?
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I'd love to take credit for it. For me and my co-founder, we found someone else doing this service and had been around actually 15 plus years doing something similar before they went under. That's a whole nother story we won't get into. But the truth is, this is a program that is an excellent preventative program for people that don't have dementia. And fortunately, the federal government is covering it. And that is really a great thing that they are. I wish all the independent insurance companies, health insurance companies that are doing these Medicare Advantage plans covered it. They don't cover the brain fitness piece unless you have dementia. If you have dementia, they'll cover it. But using it as a preventative program, and it's an excellent preventative program, unfortunately, they're not covering that piece. But when you get it covered, it becomes affordable, because, the truth is, getting dementia and all the problems that come with that from a health perspective is extremely costly. So if you get, for instance, if you get someone that ends up in a hospital, if they don't have brain health issues, they don't stay in the hospital as long as someone who does. And they have fewer falls, which put them in a hospital, right? So this is something that we know from research. So it's really a cost preventative measure, I think, from insurance, if they'll get with the current research that says, while maybe initially they're paying money out, it's going to save them a lot of money in the long run. Because if we can keep people from getting dementia, it's a huge win, not only for them and their families and loved ones and communities and your staffers that have to deal with these people, but from a medical cost perspective, it's going to save a lot of money. And then for the people who have it, fortunately, it's pretty easy to get coverage because the other companies are giving that coverage. And one of the side benefits we're seeing in working with them on brain fitness is, even though that's not the only thing we do as a company, we're seeing that as we work with them, for the people who are having behavioral issues, those behavioral issues start to ease. The person who's a bit more aggressive starts to ease a bit. The person who's anxious starts to ease a little bit, and I think that's a lot because they're getting that one-on-one attention. They're feeling really heard. When I don't feel heard and I'm talking and people aren't listening, it's very aggravating. I think it is for most people. And so for an older adult, I think it's the same case. So when you're working with a bunch of people at once, can't always listen to every single individual person and what they want you to do. But when we come in and talk one-on-one, we are listening. We're doing everything we can to hear them. And I think that's the benefit. They pick up on that, and it allows them to relax a bit more.
Yeah, there's a lot of us in America who don't have anybody to listen to us.
Exactly.
And how awesome to have at the most vulnerable time in life to be able to have someone who can just sit down and listen to you, really hear you. As Tiffany just chatted in, brain health doesn't have to be scary. I'm loving all these stories. Well, Tiffany, let me tell you a story that I heard from one of our executive directors who partners with Inspire in Chicago. Their social worker was coming in, and one of the residents, she decided that the brain health strategy she was going to use was help this fairly new resident decorate her room. So instead of doing, brain fitness exercises on a couch together, they got together and they looked through all of her stuff and they really put every piece where it needed to be and thought through how we can make this room feel like home with all your knickknacks and all your pictures and everything and get it where it needs to be. So I loved hearing that story because I thought that is so creative, right? It's not just let's pull out a ditto book and let's scratch out, the different numbers, but it's really getting personal. Is that the kind of thing you train your social workers to do, that kind of creative work?
So what we're trying to do is get them to individualize our program and our activities to what they need. And while we say our activities, we're encouraging them to do the other 4 things. Right. Exercise, social interaction, brain food, and taking care of their health. We encourage our residents to do those 4 things. We just don't provide them. They're already provided in the communities. So we're doing this 5th one, but we're trying to get them to do all 5. What's interesting though, Benjamin, is the activity you just described, that's not a brain fitness activity. We do 2 other things. So the 2 other things that we do at Inspire in these communities is 1, we're a mental health practice. We do mental health counseling. For what we found in a lot of these communities is that they don't have mental health professionals coming in, or primarily their way of treating mental illness is in conditions like depression, anxiety is medication. But the research is over a quarter century old will tell you the most effective way of treating depression and anxiety is a combination of medication and talk therapy. We do the talk therapy piece. A 3rd thing we do, which I think is way underutilized, in an example is what you just described. We provide professional emotional support. So that's the person who is stressed out by something, but they don't have a mental illness. They're just struggling to adjust to something, like moving in and not knowing anybody and having your things everywhere, or a pandemic that hits and everyone now is under masks and we're telling them to stay in their room and not to come out, and that isolation that comes with that, or grief. Older adults living in these communities have way more losses than the rest of us typically do. So they need that support. So it doesn't mean that there's something mentally wrong with them. They just need emotional support. So we come in and we provide that. So the clinician, what you described, was recognizing that her client was probably stressed by having a room that didn't feel like home. So she helped her make it feel like home. That was a brilliant move on her part. Love it. Love it. But like I said, our clinicians are fabulous. They really are.
So what I'm hearing is that a senior moves into a senior living community. And if the senior living community is a partner with Inspire, then there's kind of 3 different entry points to receiving services, and they may even overlap. Yes. One would be, I'm moving in, huge transition. I just lost my husband, lost my dog. I'm living in this new building. I don't have any friends. And a social worker can come and help them through that transition.
Absolutely, because it takes a while before they find their way in the community, where they start making friends, where they find activities they like. A lot of them will sit in their room and don't want to come out because they're freaked out by leaving their home that they've lived in for decades, and they don't know what to do. I have a client that says he just sits in his room and looks at the walls. We need to get them out, but who's going to do that? And the reality is, the communities aren't set up to do that. So we come in the communities we're in, and we can give them someone to talk to on a regular basis and help connect them in ways that they may not get that personalized service. So yeah, that's one of the things that we do. Yep.
Okay. And then the second entry point would be something like, I am depressed and I need some support. But instead of going and having to transport to some clinic somewhere and wait in line for an hour, you're coming to my room, right? You come to my apartment. I get my mental health services right there. And then the third entry point is, I want my brain to be as healthy as possible.
Yeah.
Right. So
and the reality is, you can do 1, 2, or 3. You can do any of them. Okay. We will pop between them based on what's needed in a moment. But the mental health piece, this generation's still very leery of it. But the statistics say about 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 older adults have some mental health condition they're dealing with, most prominent depression and anxiety. So we want to try and figure out who those people are and get them the help they need. And if they don't want to take medication, do the talk therapy. And if they're doing medication, talk therapy will be helpful in addition to that.
Okay. I've got one more story from one of your social workers. Her name is Jennifer, and she worked with a gentleman who would not leave his room, would not participate in anything. He was so depressed. Let's hear about her journey with this gentleman.
I've been a clinician with Inspire for a little bit over a year and a half now. And I think that Inspire and working as a clinician for Inspire is that everybody's story is different and we can impact different people in different ways. I do have a particular client in mind who I've been working with from the day I started at Inspire. He had a lot of barriers mentally, physically, and cognitively. When I had first began working with him, I could not get him out of his recliner chair. He faced a lot of mental hurdles with depression and anxiety and socializing with other residents. He is married, has a spouse, and his spouse is completely opposite of him. So she is always out of the room and participating. And between the two of us and the staff at the building, we couldn't seem to get him going. Spent a lot of time addressing his depression and anxiety throughout really the past year and a half. And in addition to that, at the end of every session, we would implement some exercises to exercise his brain as well. He recently told me that he had been complimented by his neuropsych or his neurologist. They noticed a tremendous improvement from his last appointment he had with them to the most recent appointment, which was really mind-blowing to me. And it was incredible that a neurologist was able to recognize that in just such a simple appointment with him. And it was a follow-up appointment. So it wasn't meant to be a lengthier step. He has also battled a lot of physical impairments over the last year that triggered a lot of his mental health symptoms of depression and anxiety as well. And I think if you asked me today, I would say that he is a completely different person from the day I met him. He is up and out of his room, participating in almost every activity that the community offers, and he is asking for more. And we are continuing to do the cognitive exercises to exercise his brain and keep him going. He's challenging himself on the physical level as well. He's engaged in exercise classes and physical therapy, and he's really trying to put his best foot forward, which has just been incredible to see his turnaround in the time where I met him just over a year and a half ago to today, and him being just so different and so driven. And I think the best part of Inspire is that not only do we get to work with some amazing people and watch and help them grow, but they also help us grow as well. And I think that's one of my favorite pieces of being a clinician.
Okay, that's powerful. That is powerful. He's in his room, not doing anything, and your social worker shows up, starts working with him, Now he's out and about, he's engaged, he's living life, he's doing well. Like that is huge.
And not surprising to me at all. See, the reality is, yeah, we have great clinicians. This stuff works. It's steeped in global research right now. We know what we're doing. The emotional support, the mental health things we're doing, that's steeped in research too. We just need to get them the services. They are going to thrive on this. One of the interesting questions I get often, Benjamin, when I talk about brain fitness is, why twice a week? My answer is always, because insurance won't pay for more than twice a week. I do it 7 days a week. The more we can engage them, the better off they are. But I think everyone gets that. The more you can engage someone, the better they're going to do. If you have a mom that's retired sitting in her house by herself and you go visit her once a week, she's going to be a lot better if you're visiting her 4 days a week and talking to her and taking time to engage. Or if other people are going there and engaging with her. If she's sitting there by herself and doing meals and watching TV and that's it, she ain't going to do as well. So that we're getting that person to exercise their brain with specific things that are fun. They're games. But that's what they think, at least. I always tell people, well, actually, I'll give you this. I asked a client, a longtime client, one of my very first ones, I said, how do I describe brain fitness, what we're doing to your peer group? And she said, tell them it's like a friend comes to visit you twice a week to talk and play games. And I thought about it and I thought, that's probably what it seems like to them. But every question I ask has a purpose. Every game has a purpose. So the games are games to them. To me, it's a computer module that I may use or an interactive activity I may use. But, when I come in to a client and I say, so what you been doing since I last saw you? That's a friendly question, right? My purpose is I want to know if they can recall it. That's a memory question I'm asking right there. Sometimes I have clients say, you're getting a little nosy, Ron, aren't you? I'm like, do you think I really need to know all these things I'm asking you? I have no interest. I mean, I'd love to hear it, but I'm not prying. I want to know if you know the answers. That's why I ask you what you've been doing and who you've been with, or where did you go to eat and what did you order? They're all memory issue questions. That's all I'm doing with them. And once they get that, they're like, oh, okay. Have you ever been asked, what'd you do over the weekend? And you just went blank? You're like, oh my God, it's Monday and I've already forgotten. So getting them to do that can be really helpful for people.
Okay. I think I get it. Now, let me ask you this. So the reason you're part of the Koelsch Innovation Lab is because this really is a very innovative service. It's not available in many states yet. It's not available widely globally. It's a new model to make affordable what has been out of reach for mainstream American seniors. So it's a new model. You're currently in Texas and Illinois. We're going to work with you to try to get you to Washington, Arizona, California, Montana, Idaho, and Colorado. Tell me, what is your vision for Inspire Senior Care over the next 5 years?
In regards to you guys or everywhere?
Just what would you love to see in 5 years? Inspire Senior Care. What will people say about it in 5 years?
In 5 years, what I'd love to see is that we're in every Koelsch community. That would double us in size. Okay. I'd love more of the national chains to talk to me and engage with me, maybe see this interview and go, why don't we have this? Well, hold it. Why Koelsch is the first one? Why aren't we doing what they're doing? I'm like, well, why aren't you? I had a national group once that will remain nameless. And their initial agreement was, we want in our contract with you that you won't do any other groups. And I said, no, my goal is to do this nationwide. Everywhere. I want to be in 50 states. People say, what's your territory? I'm the vice president for business development. They say, what's your territory? And I go, the country. That's what I'm doing right now. I'll go anywhere that someone wants our help, as long as I can get enough people interested to attract a clinician. Yeah, I'd love to say, if you've got a grandmother in Oklahoma, that I'm sending someone there. The reality is my clinicians need to get paid, and this is their living. They can't make a living off one client they see once or twice a week. I need to give them 8 to 10 clients once or twice a week. That's what they want. And that'll give them a living that's sufficient for them. My clinicians, they're passionate, they're brilliant, they love what they do. They're so invested in this type of in this clientele. But I got to give them a good living as best I can. So anywhere where I can, that's why we tend to go to communities, not homes. We had a community where lots of people are. And particularly if we got a community that has a lot of dementia, it actually becomes easier because when someone cancels, then you go to the next person. It becomes a lot easier. And independent living, though, a lot of people hear brain fitness and they think, oh, you're only for people with Alzheimer's. I'm like, no, actually, you need us more in independent living than they need us in assisted living and memory care, because we'll keep you from ever having to go to assisted living and memory care.
That's right.
We're going to keep your brain in good shape. Or someone says, hold it, are you saying there's something wrong with my brain? Is that why you're coming to me? I'm like, no, this is a program available to everybody. Do you want to keep a good brain or not? It's like muscles. Yeah, do you want to be able to use your muscles? Do you want to be able to walk well? Well, if so, you need to use those muscles. What are you doing to keep your brain healthy? That's why, once again, brain fitness, like physical fitness, but it's for the brain. But we got to make it fun, because since they're not contractually obligated, they can leave anytime they want. And I lost a client once because she got a boyfriend. I was interrupting her boyfriend time, and she was worried the other women in the community would steal her boyfriend while she was with me. So I had to call the daughter, and I'm like, I know you want this for your mom, but she is so anxious when she's with me. She's all she's thinking about is that boyfriend. We need to leave her the boyfriend. She's so happy with him.
So funny. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Well, if you're interested in learning more about Ron and what Ron's doing, go to inspireseniorcare.com. You can read more about what they're up to and contact them. If you're a licensed clinical social worker, Ron is looking for you.
We are currently hiring in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We are probably going to be hiring soon in Illinois also. In
Seattle soon. Seattle.
Then we're going to be moving into the Seattle area, and then probably around in California and Colorado and Idaho and Montana. We're coming everywhere. And what we're looking for is licensed clinical social workers that want to make a difference. They want to something that they can feel passionate about and have the creativity to grow and do what they want. You know, my experience in the mental health field is so often people are telling me what to do and how to do it and what I can and can't do. And while there are always a certain amount of that, you know, one of the things we teach is you have to stay on point working on the things they need work on. I can't just talk to them for no reason. I can't just play a game for no reason. I have to have a purpose to it. But once I have a purpose, now what are you going to do with that? And there are a million things that we can do and come up with. It's just you're open to however creative their minds are. So it's a really cool opportunity too.
Love it. Hey, my friends, if you are watching live or recorded, please text #innovation to 360-526-6201 so we can make sure that you are updated with future innovation episodes. We have a really cool episode coming up next month with the founders of Eversound. They've created this really cool technology that makes it easy to hear when you makes it easy to hear when you're in a communal setting, right? And you're in an art class, you're in a travel club, you're in a dining room, you want to hear the people across from you, right? And hearing aids don't cut it, or you don't like hearing aids, you don't need hearing aids. Maybe you got pretty good hearing, but you're in a noisy setting. They create a really cool technology that they'll be talking about. But Ron, I'm just so thankful for you being here today and for what you guys are doing in the United States, because it has the potential to really make a difference for seniors, and it already is making a difference. So thank you for what you're doing. Any last words for our audience?
Well, I want to thank you for allowing me to do this. And I want to thank Koelsch. You guys, to my knowledge, are the only national senior living company that's going to have a program like ours in their communities. And so it's going to take a little while, but we're going to get there in all of them. And then it's going to be an extra service that you guys have that the other ones don't all have. And I hope they do. My last words: 5 things to do to keep a healthy brain: exercise, social interaction, brain healthy foods, which are heart healthy foods, right? Take care of your health, challenging cognitive activities. Easiest one, go learn something new. It doesn't matter. Do that. You're going to be in a lot better position brain health wise.
Thank you all. We appreciate you for being here today. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Ron. Very informative and educational. And Tiffany and Catherine, both of you get the book. And so I will, if you will text that number right there, 360-526-6201, Tiffany and Catherine, just text me that number and give me your address and I'll mail that book out to you. It's a great book. I'll put it up on the screen one more time just so people see it. It's a fascinating book. It talks about a lot of what Ron's talking about. Remember Ron's talking about those positive memories. One of the big things he covers, Dr. Medina covers in this book, is the research behind the reminiscence bump. When you're able to reminisce about a certain part of your life, there's actual evidence that it impacts your brain. So anyway, really cool
Long-term memory. That's a long-term memory activity. Do it all the time.
Ron, it's a pleasure. Hey, stick around for a moment for me, Ron. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. We appreciate you, and we're looking forward to talking to you soon. All right.
Thanks, everyone.
See you soon.